Good morning and Good Friday. We've finally come to the pivotal moment of Holy Week. Good Friday is the day when everything changes. Now, we call it Good Friday, and if you want to know why we call it that, I encourage you to watch the live Q&A I did last night because I answered that question. But there's not a lot of good that happens on Good Friday. In fact, as we read the gospel accounts of what happens on this day, there is nothing good, at least nothing good in the moment. And I'm going to link all of the gospel accounts to what happened on Good Friday in the description of this video so that you can read them. And I want to encourage you to spend some time contemplating and reading through and processing what happened on this day. Maybe even tonight watch the movie The Passion or one of the other movie depictions of Christ's death, because ultimately that's what happens on this day. Jesus is put on a mock trial. He's found guilty by the Sanhedrin. He's taken before Pilate, who tries to release him, but the crowds turn on Jesus and they shout, "Crucify him." So Jesus is taken to be beaten, flogged, mocked. He's forced to carry his cross all the way through the city up into the Mount of Golgotha. He's crucified. The nails are forced through his hands and through his feet. The crucifix is laid up, the cross is put up, and he's put on display between two criminals for hours. There are all kinds of scenes that happen around the foot of the cross over the course of the day. And then finally the moment happens. Darkness descends on the land. God turns his back on Jesus. And Jesus utters his last words. He says, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." And he says, "It is finished." And they take Jesus' body down, they bury him in a tomb, and the day is over. The day is over. Good Friday is done when Jesus' dead body is put into the grave. But I want to focus on two characters in this story this morning. And they're two very different characters. The first is a man by the name of Peter, who we know very well. And Peter knows Jesus very well. He has literally spent every day for the last 3 years in Jesus' presence. 24/7 nearly he has spent with Jesus, his master. This brash, proud man, Peter, does the unthinkable at the time when Jesus needs him the most. And it's in a couple of the gospel accounts, but I want to read it out of Mark chapter 14, starting in verse 66. It says, "Meanwhile, Peter was in the courtyard below, and one of the servant girls who worked for the high priest came and noticed Peter warming himself at the fire. She looked at him closely and said, 'You were one of those with Jesus of Nazareth.' But Peter denied it. 'I don't know what you're talking about,' he said, and he went out into the entryway. And just then, a rooster crowed. When the servant girl saw him standing there, she began telling the others, 'This man is definitely one of them.' But Peter denied it again. A little later, some of the other bystanders confronted Peter and said, 'You must be one of them because you are a Galilean.' Peter swore, 'A curse on me if I'm lying. I don't know this man you're talking about.' And immediately the rooster crowed a second time. Suddenly, Jesus' words flashed through Peter's mind. 'Before the rooster crows twice, you will deny me 3 times, and that you even know me.' And he broke down and wept." Here's Peter, the one who's never at a loss for words, who's always the one speaking up before anyone else, the one who told Jesus, "I will die with you. I will stand beside you no matter what." Here he is denying Jesus. Well, that's the first character. Now let's go to the second character. And we don't have to go far. In the Mark account, the trial before Pilate happens very quickly. He's mocked, he's crucified, and he dies. And after his death, here's what happened. Verse 39 of chapter 15 says, "When the Roman officer who stood facing Jesus, saw how he had died, he exclaimed, 'This man truly was the Son of God.'" Here's a Roman officer, a Gentile, who didn't know Jesus at all, had not spent hardly any time with Jesus, sees his death on Good Friday and proclaims, surely this man was the Son of God. Two very different accounts. Peter, who'd spent every waking moment of the last 3 years with Jesus, who said, I'll stand beside you no matter what, denies Jesus. And the Roman soldier who'd never even probably heard of Jesus before, certainly had not spent any time with him, sees Jesus die and declares, this truly was the Son of Man. Now we know how Peter's story ends, but in this moment, the question is, how could he? And the question for you and me is, how could we? And the question for you and me is, are we more like Peter? Yes, we've spent a lot of time with Jesus. We've read a lot about him. We know a lot about him. But when push comes to shove, will we deny him? Or will we be like the Roman soldier and declare him as the Son of God? Will you be like Peter, or will you be like the Roman soldier? It's not your history that matters. It's not how much you know that matters. It's not even how much time you've spent with Jesus that really matters. It doesn't matter how brash and how bold you are. The question is, when you come to the foot of the cross, do you deny him, or you declare that he is the Son of Man? I want to challenge you this morning to declare that. Tell somebody. Declare that among your family. Declare that among your neighbors. Declare that on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever you are right now, while we're being physically distant. Declare that Jesus truly is the Son of Man. And we'll see you tomorrow for Black Saturday.